Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an incredible day. To start things off, today we're going to be talking about how to avoid paying taxes. There's a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. Very different things. The first thing that we're going to cover is the difference between short and long-term investments, and that can also be passive investments. It doesn't really matter. Many countries around the world, just about all of them, I think, have different tax brackets for short and long-term investments. It is typically known that if you are a day trader for stocks, you are taxed differently than someone who owns a stock or a mutual fund or a bond for a longer period of time. There's a difference in the capital gains tax, especially if you are a short or long-term holder. And the same exact way, this is probably why you see the difference between, I'm pretty sure you've seen the news as well, where you see the companies who are paying lower taxes or other individuals who've had investments for longer periods of time, they are taxed less. They typically make it into the news when they end up selling said investments and they don't pay a lot of taxes. This is typically also sometimes for businesses, usually for businesses as well, who don't pay tons of taxes. But as I assume many of you are not a gigantic corporation, we will focus on things that pertain to you. So if you are looking to legally avoid paying taxes, I would say, there we go, you should get into long-term investments, as the capital gains tax bracket is always a lot cheaper, a lot lower. It's a difference sometimes between you paying 25% in tax, 15% in tax, 4% in tax, or 0% in tax. Those aren't made up numbers depending on where you live. You can even Google it. Type in wherever you live, whatever country you live, and type in the difference between long-term and short-term capital gains taxes. This is why a lot of times you will notice on this channel, I encourage you to do long-term investing. If you buy something, it is necessary that you hold it for a long time, because you will be taxed less as you're making dividends from it. And or when you sell it in general, you will be in a very different tax bracket and you will avoid a huge amount of taxes. A lot of countries also have a timing system. So if you hold something for over a year, you get less taxes. If you hold something for more than 5 years, you're even lower, 10 years, and it continues going. So sometimes you end up getting to a 0% tax bracket. That's not a lie. This is also a very well-known trick that many rich people also do to lower their tax bracket and to not have to pay as much taxes or no tax at all. Passive incomes are taxed less than, this is a, I had this conversation with a friend a couple of months ago, and they did not care for this. I thought for some reason that I was telling them something really cool, because when I tell people things, I sometimes expect them to go, wow, that's amazing, I love that, I also want to do this. Nope, that's not how this happened. A lot of people are angry to know that when you work a 9-to-5 job, you are taxed higher than someone who has passive income or passive investments. That is just the honest truth. The way that our world works and many governments work is that if you are into passive investments, have passive anything, you are taxed less. If you have passive income from stocks, mutual funds, bonds, and in many places as well, it can be cryptocurrencies. It really depends on the country. You are in a lower tax bracket than your friend who works the 9-to-5 job. So while they may be taxed anywhere from 19, 24, 29, 30 something percent, you are probably in the 22, 18, 14, or 7% tax bracket, especially also if you are married as well, your tax bracket also goes a lot lower. So this is also why this channel has mainly been focused on you dealing with passive investments, because you are taxed lower. It helps you to retire earlier and quicker. And you also avoid paying as much tax as your friend probably who's not investing is going to. So the next topic has to do with buying and selling real estate. People were asking me this before. I thought I'd just put it into a video as opposed to answering about 45 different questions in the comment section. Helps my fingers not have to do all of that work. There are many countries around the world. I can't give you an exact for every single country. However, what it comes down to is that in many countries around the world, if you buy real estate and you hold it for over an extended period of time, When you sell that real estate, you pay zero taxes. And I don't mean a fake zero, I mean an actual zero. For instance, in Germany, if you buy property and you hold it for 10 years, at the end of the 10 years, you then pay 0% taxes. The same exact thing is true in France. I think it's after 15 or 20 years. I think it cumulatively comes down to in France. If you buy property and you decide to flip it that same year, you pay this much as a tax bracket, whatever the actual number might be. If you hold said property for 2 years, your tax bracket ends up going lower, and it adds or lowers the percentage year after year after year. And I believe cumulatively after the 20th year, if you were to sell that property, you then pay 0% on your taxes. I remembered watching a documentary years ago where this guy, it was about 2 years ago, this guy, the documentary was about how the rich avoid taxes and how they should not be doing so. And they were asking this older gentleman from Germany, how many properties do you have? And he said, I think he had over 150 or something like that. And the person, they were taken aback. How can you have so many properties? And he said he started years and years ago. When the Berlin Wall fell, he decided to start gobbling up as many properties as possible. And since then, all the properties have been redeveloped, and therefore he has become quite rich. So the person was asking him behind the camera, one of the interviewers, they said, how much do you pay on these properties? They already knew the answer. When you sell them. And he said nothing. This guy was interesting. He also did his own taxes. He had like a stack of paper. He wasn't even a tax lawyer. He just did his own taxes, I guess, the way to save some extra money. But there are many countries like this. I believe it's also similar in certain places within the United States. You are automatically in a different tax bracket if you receive money from passive income from your real estate investment, but also there's a different tax if you are a property flipper and a property holder for the long term. I don't think, as far as I know, you will ever get to a 0%, but I would definitely Google around. A lot of people have been asking me about buying property overseas. This is one of the advantages, one of a very, very big advantage. Not only are you taxed differently when it comes to the income that you are receiving, but also, I mean, realistically, my personal goal when I invest in properties is to be able to actually buy the property and hold it. I have no intention of selling any properties that I have. Eventually one day when I do have kids, they will inherit the property for also tax reasons as well. But also I like to hold on to my property and just continue getting the rent from them, and also the value increase. And also should at some point I decide to sell the property after 20 years, it is also nice to know that I will not be taxed on it. This is a very big thing. This is not only, I don't care necessarily for the term building wealth or to build wealth, but if you are looking to build wealth, this is definitely one of the easiest ways to do so. Buy property, hold it, rent it out. You're in a lower tax bracket. And when you decide to sell it, especially if you are buying foreign property, you are paying close to zero or zero taxes on it. It's not bad, I will say. The same exact thing holds true for cryptocurrencies. There are many countries around the world, more than I expected actually. If you buy the crypto, it's the same exact thing with the long and short term holds. This is a shorter long term hold. Many countries have the law that if you buy cryptocurrencies and 365 days later or 366 days later you decide to sell, you pay no taxes on it. That is a completely real thing in many different countries. This is true in Puerto Rico, Portugal, Germany, Singapore, Malta, Belarus. There are about 3 other names I think I'm missing. I want to say Slovenia, but I'm not 1,000% sure on that. I know that there are lower taxes for cryptocurrency companies. However, for cryptocurrency investors, this is a very big thing. Find out if this is the same in your country. First of all, if you have cryptocurrencies. And just kind of keep track of everything. They usually want to know, when did you buy? And if you bought it on a cryptocurrency exchange, you'll be able to see, I bought on this date. When did you sell? I sold on this date. Well, that was longer than 365 days, and you will get a tax bill of 0 for it. This is a topic that I've kind of discussed on the other channel. It is a very big thing. Imagine being able to move to a tropical island or just anywhere else in the world and you automatically fall into a lower tax bracket, or after a year, you pay 0 taxes. I think other countries are going to fall behind on this because that is going to be a very big thing in the future, to be able to sell, make millions, and then pay 0 taxes on it. You can't You can't really beat it. You can't, like, literally, you can't beat it because it's zero. The next one is going to be government bonds and municipal bonds. This is pretty much when you lend money to a state, a council, a government in some sort of way. For whatever reason, they might need the money. You are then normally automatically put into a 0% tax bracket for that actual bond that you are buying. These sometimes don't have the greatest interest rates compared to other investments. However, a lot of people actually choose these, especially in times of crises you may have seen before on the news, depending on where you live. Companies are now buying up government bonds. It's because as the stock market ends up falling down or other things are going down in value, you can buy these up, give or lend some money to the government. And then when you decide to sell these things back to them, or when they repay you back from what they lent from you, you pay no taxes on it. It's another great way of paying taxes. This normally, I mean, if you have enough money to be able to invest in these bonds, you make a good chunk of change back. But it's still another way for you to, there's so many ways to just simply avoid paying taxes. And legally as well. This is what I think I think this frustrates a lot of people who are not into investing because they don't understand these different ways. And I think a lot of times they also get upset because it doesn't necessarily apply to them. I mean, I'll be realistic with you. If I was not an investor, and I found out that I was working a 9 to 5 or had to work 2 or 3 jobs, and that my friend across the street was also not really working, he was investing, and was not only in a lower tax bracket, but also making more money than me, I'd be a little peeved. So I guess maybe that's why my friends have been kind of annoyed. Anyway, the next one goes down to owning or starting a business. A lot of people don't know this. What ends up happening is that you can have tons of deductions from the actual income that you receive from the business. You receive extra deductions on your tax if you are married. This is going to be a common theme across many places around the world. You can take out extra, you have more tax leniency if you are married to someone, or common law, or whatever kind of phrase you want to use. A lot of the deductions for having a business can come down to, there's a health insurance deduction, there's a home deduction. You can actually sometimes, if you own a business or you have a business from home, you can actually take the room that you do that business in and have it as a deduction. I know that sounds completely weird, but that's an entire thing. Like, you can choose the home, you can choose the room that you have in your home, and you can actually write that off on your taxes as if it is it's a write-off, and it actually works as well. Your work and business expenses are also, if you happen to buy stuff for said business to be able to do stuff with the business, if you happen to have I don't know what kind of business, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Anything that you buy pertaining to that business is also a write-off on the expenses of your business. Same exact thing for many businesses also go to travel. There are ways, as I am a YouTuber, if I am doing something that pertains directly to what I'm doing on my YouTube channels, and I decide to travel to Boopadoopland, and at some point go to a conference pertaining to cryptocurrencies, I am actually able to write off that event for cryptocurrencies because it pertains directly to my job that I'm doing. That is also a really weird write-off. I've seen other people do that as well, who go to conventions, who go to other places like that. You can even write off sometimes, you can even write off the meals that you have on that trip because you have to eat during this trip, and it also pertains to the actual business that you're doing. And that also comes out of your taxes as well. So you end up saving money even further. I know a lot of this is blowing your minds because it shouldn't logically make sense, but this is how it is. And if you do all these things correctly, this is why you once again keep hearing about the businesses who pay 0%, because there are ways to kind of snake around the law, or not even snake around the law, to snake around taxes legally and just simply not pay anything, or have an extremely low tax bracket. There's so many other tax credits that I can't even think of right now. I have someone who helps me with my taxes that I do, and he'll ask me such weird questions, and I sit there like, why are you asking me this? These are all write-offs. And it keeps your numbers down really, really low to the point where you can even get to paying 1-2% taxes because you have so many write-offs back to back to back. It's not bad. Many countries have retirement tax benefits. If you max out your retirement accounts, whether that be your 401k, your blah, 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 it doesn't really matter what it is. A lot of them, well, at the end of the year when you're doing your taxes, will ask you, okay, can you give us information as to how much money you put into your taxes, into your retirement accounts? And you fall into a lower tax bracket. It also lowers your taxable income in many countries. that also causes that to decrease that year as well. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, how many ways are there actually to avoid taxes. And this also isn't a bad thing. As far as like contributing more to your retirement account, a lot of people have an issue when it comes to putting money away in general. If you can do that by simply putting more money into your retirement account, and usually in most countries, I forgot what the max is in the United States. I think it's like 10,000 a year, 15,000 a year, 6,000 a year. I don't remember the exact number anymore. But it's more like if you have trouble saving and you can do that as an automatic instead, and by the end of the year, not only are you paying less taxes, but you also increase the amount of money that you have towards your retirement. It's more like a why would you not do that kind of thing? There's no real downside to you putting away money for your retirement or to retiring earlier and also paying less on your taxes. There's no real, I can't think of a downside unless you can figure out one. Another one, what I was just talking about before, what my friend was telling me are tax credits. The IRS has tons of tax credit that many people don't know about. These are home ownership credits, education credits, healthcare credits. It depends on if you are currently, and it depends state to state and country to country. And I'm pretty sure there's something like this in your country as well. It's not only for the United States. There are many tax deductions depending on what you're actually doing. If you have a business, if you own a home, sometimes you can even deduct certain fees and costs for the actual home. There are tax deductions as well if you are renting out a place, and depending on how much the actual HOA fees or land fees are, these are also deductions. So the more passive income that you have and the more assets that you actually end up having, it only helps you along the way when you're trying to do your taxes, especially if you're eventually going to be selling these things off. You always end up in a lower tax bracket. You will always be taxed lower than your friends who are working 9-to-5 jobs. This is why I guess a lot of people don't care for, I don't want to say don't care for the rich, but the system is created in a way that people who have passive income or don't work outright, not only are they outperforming inflation by a mile, but they're also being taxed lower. Yeah. There are also, for those of you who like mutual funds, there are also tax-free mutual funds. Pretty much, a lot of them are usually retirement mutual funds where pretty much you are putting, like if you've never bought a mutual fund before, mutual funds are pretty much where instead of buying an individual stock, it'll be bunched together with a whole bunch of other stocks, i.e. it'll be 15 different stocks, and you can buy actual stocks, if you will, or portions of that actual mutual fund, so then you end up owning the actual mutual fund. You can keep buying more and more every single month. However, there are tons of retirement mutual funds where the company who's doing the fund themselves have only purchased companies that they know or expect are going to last for a long amount of time. So a lot of times you may see in your 20s, when you go into Vanguard or some other website like that, they'll have things listed like a retirement 50, retirement 60, retirement 70 account, and so on and so forth, where they pretty much ask you, how long do you expect until you retire? I.e. the better you start, the earlier you start, the better. However, if you start putting your money into this, the tax bracket that these things end up being put into are also extremely low. You also pay lower taxes, once again, if you also own mutual funds as well. You're in a completely different tax bracket. These are not the only ways of avoiding taxes, and for the sake of the video not being an hour and a half, those are the most common ones that I would suggest. As always, keep saving. Look into passive income investments, whatever they might be, whatever suits you, whatever floats your boat, whatever sounds the most comfortable to you. I would wholeheartedly suggest you doing so. There's nothing like being not only taxed less, but also having zero taxes. If you are looking into getting property, especially overseas property, I would give it a quick Google, a quick search, and type in zero tax on property, or like zero tax foreign property, overseas property, whatever keywords, key phrases you want to try and use. There's almost nothing like it. Can you imagine the idea of owning 100 properties? The money that you're getting from those properties, you're not even being taxed a lot on. And at some point, should you decide to liquidate half of them, you are also going to pay zero taxes. It's kind of insane. I do hope you all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day. a great morning, a great afternoon, a great evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and or listening, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.